Bella, good morning. Good morning to you, rather, all ruminators. Thank you very much for joining. It is indeed a wonderful pleasure to be with you one more time and to be able to discuss a very important topical matter, right? Sometimes you have to get your thoughts together, right? Even though you are online, right? It comes up and you just have to begin. And sometimes, the words are not flowing from your mind. It is now about 4:16 here where I am. So I am pretty much up very early to make this video for you. So please help me to gain my trend of thought. Now, this morning we are going to talk about some very important matters, particularly with regard to the Jews, right, and their ownership of the entertainment industry. And we want to look specifically uh, at this whole Bob Marley's movie that is coming up. And before I even talk about Bob Marley and the Jews and the entertainment industry, let's talk a little about, let me hail people who, all Black people around the world, right? Because we're celebrating Black History Month, particularly in the United States, but by extension around the world, right? February is considered to be Black History Month. Before I came on the video, I was thinking that we need to probably make um, or we need to found or to begin a humanity month or a humanity talking about humanity yearly, right? Because I think we're fast losing our humanity. Yes. And I think one of the things that makes us distinct or distinctive from the animal kingdom is that we're able to think and to reason, and that we were created in the image of God. But the fact of the matter is that in recent times, we find ourselves not being able to think. We're thinking like robots, right? So people are just moving with the current, they're moving with the wind, and they do whatever authorities tell them to do. And I'm not suggesting here that we should not obey our authorities because we need some amount of authoritarian rules and regulations, right? For example, if you talk about the stoplights on the road, you have to obey that because if you don't obey that, and if they don't impose stringent, penalties regarding those who disobey that law, right, the traffic laws, then you're going to have lots of what? Lots of deaths, right? And injuries, right? So we understand in some context that we do need some form of authoritarian rules. But apart from that, we even talking about that authoritarian rule as regards traffic lights, it should be something that is rational, right? So you can look at the reason behind that particular law and you can rationalize and say, yes, the laws are stringent. However, I understand that based on the fact that if I don't do X, Y, and Z, then this will happen, right? So we are reasoning individuals, or we should be reasoning individuals. But in recent times, I've realized that many of our people, including those with advanced degrees, right, who have gone to school and sometimes to some of the most elite schools, are unable to think and to reason. Because, when you go through school, for example, even at the graduate level, and that is also included in the United States, where I was trained and also taught there also. But when you look at the graduate level, you see where there is a push to indoctrinate students, right, into what the professor, the advisor, wants them to be indoctrinated into, right? And to be indoctrinated into the general curriculum, right? And that is what the agenda is all about. It's not to create students with minds to think for themselves, right? And to think critically. As the famous professor, Professor Brocken, on an interview with the Dr. Philip Macmillan, and that interview was done last Saturday. I think I sent you the links to that video, my last video, right? Did I? Or video day before yesterday. But I sent it to you sometime ago recently. I can recall. And in that video, Professor Brocken, Dr. Brocken was suggesting that our school system, and Professor Brocken, by the way, is an epidemiologist, right? And I think he has his PhD in epidemiology. And he is suggesting and that our school system does not, and I agree with him, our school system does not teach us how, it does not teach us how to think, but they teach us what to think, right? To think about, digest that for a moment, that the school system, even at the collegiate, at the university level, does not teach us how to think. They teach us or teach their students what to think, right? And we've got to understand that that is not education, because education should be teaching you how to think, right? Another important element of education is to be able to solve the problems, right, of the society from which you emanate, right? We need to be able to solve the problems, right? What we have today are people who are pretending to solve the intractable problems that bedevil our society at this moment, right? That's what we're seeing, a potential, people hypocritically pretending to be solving these problems. But we see, if you're intelligent enough, that these problems are not being solved, right? Now, today, let's begin with a look at Ziggy Marley, right? And let me share my screen with you so you can see what I am reading and the document from which I am reading. Now, we have Ziggy Marley. I'm jealous of Jewish culture. That is what Ziggy Marley is saying. And this was written, published on the 7th of the 10th, 2011, right? Now, we have here David Ziggy Marley, the son of famed reggae musician Bob Marley, is returning to Israel for 2 concerts on July 19th at Tel Aviv's Barbie Club and on July 21st at Jerusalem's Sacher Park. We caught up with him for a special interview 2 weeks ago after his performance at the Color Cafe in Brussels before an audience of 20,000 people. Ziggy Marley feels very close to Israel. He's married to Orly, an Israeli woman, and they have 3 children, a girl named Judah Victoria, a boy named Gideon, and a baby, Abraham Selassie. So here we have the merger of the Jewish and the Rastafarian faith. Of course, we know that Haile Selassie was not Rastafarian, but the Rastafarians regard him as a god, right? Which he has declared that he is not one, but Rastafarians continue to deem him, right, to regard him as a god. Marley admits that having no other choice, he celebrates all the Jewish holidays and is very jealous of our culture, right? The history of our connection to the roots of Israel, to David, Solomon, goes way back before I met my wife. So he's suggesting that his religion, right, and that of his fathers, that's Rastafarianism, is closely aligned with the Jewish faith, right? I want you to understand that. That is what here he is intimating, right? My father, my Rastafari culture has a tight link to the Jewish culture. Right? So he's saying it very, very clearly here, very candidly. So it's not even that he's suggesting, he's intimating, he has declared so that it is so, according to him. I'm not here suggesting that all Rastafarians now agree with Ziggy Marley, with Ziggy Marley's assertions. What I'm suggesting here is that this is what he is pronouncing, right? He has pronounced these statements with his own mouth, right? So this is no makeup. These are his words. We have a strong connection from when I was a young boy and read the Bible, the Old Testament. The Rastafari culture has a very strong connection to Haile Selassie, a descendant of King Solomon. So it is in our soul, this connection, and we have it for a very long time, right? And this is Ziggy Marley and Rafi Barbero, new cartoon. So there's a new cartoon with Ziggy Marley and this guy. Perhaps he's also a Jew. Not sure who Rafi Barbero is, right? You can do your own research. I can't do everything for you. You've got to also do your own research, right? Several months ago, Marley entered the world of comics with a comic book called Marijuana Man, a superhero who gets his powers from the green leaves, right? So this is the sort of image. This is perhaps, and I'm not suggesting that it is, but I would think if you are thinking that you would think like that, right? That Bob Marley's image is being commodified because they want to promote the green leaves because there are powers, right? From that green leaf or from the green leaves, right? As here they are suggesting, right? So this is the whole agenda that you have to understand. One of the things that is very clear is that was it last year or the year before, there was an attempt by the global elites to sell or to legalize, I don't know what they were doing, marijuana. And when Jamaica thought that, because Jamaicans believe that they have the most potent form of, perhaps the most natural form of cannabis is cannabis or, yeah, it's cannabis, right? On the island, right? When I say cannabis, it's cannabis, right? Yeah, I think that's the word. Right, but they think they have the most potent and the most natural form of marijuana on the island. So they were very flabbergasted when they learned that, ganja was going to be imported to Jamaica, right? Remember that was going to be imported from Canada, of all places, right? So it means therefore Jamaica was not a part of that, you know, industrial activity, economic activity, right? To be able to sell marijuana to the world, in which Jamaicans probably would think that they would generate some amount of economic growth from that particular product, right? That is what they thought, but they were flabbergasted, as I said, when they realized that Jamaica was not on the list of countries from which that product would have been exported to the world, right? Something is, so you need to take stock and to see where the agenda is going, where the agenda is heading. The idea is to counteract or counterattack, I beg your pardon, the negativity that society puts on the plant, right? Now, we're living in a society in which if you go to the United States, if you go to Jamaica, if you go to, just around any part of the world, right, you'll be seeing where young people particularly are engaged in the smoking of marijuana. So who is really, what is this counterattack? When he talks about this counterattack, we are seeing more so a proliferation of this herb and the abuse, I should say, of this herb, of this product, right, of marijuana. Haven't you seen that? That's what I'm seeing. Now, the plant is very valuable to the world for medicine use, recreational use. Now, I agree with the medicinal use. I do agree with that it has medicinal purposes. And I dare say, for example, I would say that some of the drugs that we have that are produced by the pharmaceutical companies are also useful, but we're abusing a lot of them also. And that is what we're suggesting here, that smoking marijuana cannot be good for you, but taking it, yes, with the help of doctors who are able to give you the right dose and also to you know, direct you to whatever use, a particular use it might have, scientific use it might have, yes, that's the route to go, right? But not to suggest that we are going to be just smoking marijuana to gain some sort of wisdom and to elevate our spirits, right? That is not the purpose that we think or we want our society to embrace this plan. Now, we have here recreational use, industrial use, biofuel, fabric, making products from the plant that will help to stop deforestation. But this plant is very important to the planet, very important, but we have neglected to use it, right? Because all we want is a one love, one heart. Let's get together and be all right, right? Because that is what it's all about. To be able to smoke this plant, be hypnotized and mesmerized by this plant that we're not able to think. And the global elites can talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion because we all behave the same way, right? When we smoke this plant, and when you look at people who smoke this plant, they practically sometimes behave the same way. We need to take stock and to look closely and to look critically and to look analytically at this agenda. And some of you are not making the connection. And that is what boggles my mind. All you're concerned about is Bob. It's Bob, and he needs to become a national hero. That's all you're concerned about. You are not looking at the fact that, yes, Bob might have inspired some people, but you cannot negate the fact that he was also a very strong advocate of the use of marijuana in the way that we are seeing them wanting it to be used. And that is not the rightful use. It's an abuse of that plant in the way that Bob used it. I'm not sure if he used it also for medicinal purposes. Maybe he did. And props to him. But we're suggesting here on this channel that smoking weed is not going to empower you, is not going to enlighten you, is not going to endow you with the wisdom from above. And you need to understand that. And many of you have young children, and you've got to be very careful what you're seeing on the media because they are promoting this plant and they will promote it aggressively. Ziggy is coming to Israel following the release of his new album, Wild and Free. Yeah, wild and free. Because that's what they want us to be, high. Let's get together and be all right. Absolutely. People are pained. People are pained. And because they're suffering from so much mental agony, or politicians understand that, or global elites understand that, and they want you to be hypnotized and to remain in a permanent state of hypnosis, right? And that is the agenda. And you have not yet understood the agenda. Now, one of the artists who will take the stage before Marley in Jerusalem as part of the Road to Zion Festival is Israeli singer Mookie, who joined us in Brussels. Now, I think this is what Mookie is saying, the singer Mookie is saying. All the members of this family sing and create and preserve Bob Marley's message, Mookie says. Today, musical legends created in the modern world quickly become cliches and money machines which empty the message. In the Marley family, the entire issue of the message passes through the children led by the eldest son, Ziggy. And the eldest son, as we have suggested, is aligned to the British, not the British, but the Jewish culture. He is even jealous of the Jewish culture, right? Now, what is this Jewish culture of which Ziggy Marley is jealous? We've got to really delve into that, right? Now, new religions, the cult of celebrity. And I saw this article some times ago and I saved it. And this was written on February 2nd, 2002. And they published in Koinonia, right? Let me see if I could see the author names. Is it J. Taliaferro? Perhaps that's the name of the author. Celebrity worship is perhaps the most schizophrenic of all of the new religions, right? So he's suggesting here in the opening of the article, and he's right, that celebrity worship is a religion. Is a religion. And those of you who are telling me, oh, you're talking about religion, you're talking about the Christian religion, right? You don't understand, I beg your pardon, that you also unconsciously are worshiping when you make these celebrities your idols. You are worshiping at their altar. And that is a religion. You might not be going to church. You don't have to go to church because you're already in your living rooms watching these sports games and also watching these celebrities perform at their American Idols and the Grammy Awards and all of these things that you watch, thinking that they're just entertainment. Let's get together and feel all right. I mean, you have people who will say to you, oh yeah, I have to watch sports because sports is makes you rounded. Does it make you rounded? Does sports make you a rounded individual? And I'm not suggesting here that the whole component of exercising the body, because those are two distinct things, right? To exercise the human body is important and is a part of being a rounded individual. But the sports that we have now as a form of entertainment is not going to make you rounded. I do not view people like the Usain Bolt a rounded person. Do you see him as being rounded, or the LeBron James? Well, some of them might have some amount of intellect. Give them their credit, right? But a lot of them don't. A lot of them don't. Because again, this is entertainment to captivate your attention that you're not able to think. Do you think you're using up your brains when you're watching somebody kick a ball or throw a ball or run a race? How is your IQ being elevated when you do that? Now, Monday's hero can quickly become Wednesday's super villain because of a comment or a tweet. Nevertheless, modern man continues to frequent the temple of celebrity and devote themselves to the same ideologies and opinions of people whose contribution to society is negligible. Is negligible. So the teacher, for example, in the classroom, who has to teach sometimes hundreds of thousands of students who might pass under her or his tutelage for the years that he or she has taught, right? And those persons will not be counted as heroes because they're just teachers, right? They just teach you some knowledge, and that's not important. What is important to our society is to invest huge amount of money into somebody who can sing. New York, and you dance and you feel very good, right? And you think, because it eases the pain and it gives you some amount of tranquility, right? And eases the pain. And we think that we have to pay them homage because of what they have done to diminish the pain and suffering and agony that we're going through. Celebrity-like politics is another ancient form of worship that has continued to reinvent itself throughout the centuries. The media's pervasiveness gives us unfettered access to the lives of these celebrities every day. And you want to be able to listen to them. Yeah, there's no time that you're not going to hear them. And when they make a mistake, you begin, oh, wow, when you begin to talk about them. And they don't care, whether or not you talk about their flaws and their weaknesses because you're still worshiping them. Because the fact that they are garnering, they're captivating your attention means that you are giving them unnecessary attention and they love it. So even when you see them in the media and they're talking about their sexual escapades, right, among other ridiculous things that they do, they're happy because the media is shedding light on them. Do you think, for example, that Trump cares about what the media is saying about him? They're making money from his weaknesses, and he's also making money from what they say about him. It's about a money-making industry. And remember, I told you in one of my previous videos that these parasitic capitalists, right? These predatory capitalists, if they can sell your eyes, if they can sell your hands for profit, they will. And we see where even children are being peddled across, the world. And that is also a multi-billion-dollar industry. So these people don't care. And I hope you understand that. These people do not care about you. Whether you're black or you're white or you're brown or you're Asian, European, African, these guys don't care about you. And when I say these guys, I'm talking about the global and local elites and the forces behind them. And you've got to study these forces behind them. Now, we have here, let me just get here to the outwardly things look perfect, but upon further investigation, we find racists, abusers, adulterers, addicts, and manipulators. Obviously, nothing worthy of worship. But the truth is, we aren't worshiping the people, but the idea. Deep down, we know that the objects of our worship are flawed, but we prefer to live in the illusion, right? So the illusion of the celebrity religion, the illusion of celebrities. We know deep down that we are not good enough. We are deeply flawed, every one of us. We wish that this weren't so, and we carry a lot of shame because of our weaknesses. So we cling to people who represent the perfection that we don't see in the mirror. Our worship of celebrities stems from our desire to be perfect of our own merit, right? So people want to be perfect, okay? But so they look to leaders to that they can pattern, right? They can be the role models, the image of what they would like themselves to be. And it is amazing when you watch the level of imitation by some of our people, right? These long fingernails, you're boring every part of your bodies because that's what you see your celebrity um, do, right? That is what your celebrity does, right? That is the essence of who we think we are based on the lives of a normal human being. So you have to do it because he or she is doing so. I've got to bore my heirs. I've got to bore my my whatever, your nose, your eyes. And I sometimes wonder, I look at some of our females and I look at your fingernails. How do you even clean up yourselves? How do you practice good hygiene? By wearing those long fingernails? Because your celebrities wear them? It's amazing. It boggles the mind to see how low we have fallen as humanity. And sometimes I wonder if the animal kingdom doesn't behave better than some of us as human beings, because they know who they are and they know what they should do. They know their responsibilities. The male lion knows that he's a male lion, and the female lion knows that she is a female lion. Individuals as human beings, we don't know who's a man or who is a woman. We find ourselves debating that in the 21st century. And somebody, by the way, sent me a comment on the one of my videos saying to me that, I should understand that cultures change and we have to adapt to these changes. And I agree with her. I concur with her. What I don't agree with is that all changes matter and that we should concur with all changes, because we do know we have what, positive changes and we have negative changes. And there are some things, as the founding fathers of the United States suggest, some things are self-evident truths. We don't have to do any research. We don't have to go into any in-depth arguments or debates about them, because they are self-evident truths. And one of the self-evident truths is that we know the difference between a man and a woman, that there are biological differences between both sexes or genders, if you will. Okay? But we're moving into this cultural revolution that started, by the way, in the 1960s and perhaps before. But we saw this aggressive move to reorient our societies, to refashion, to reimage, to remodel our Western societies away from its Judeo-Christian foundation. And I'm not suggesting here that everybody needs to be a Christian, but we cannot negate that our values emanate from the core principles of the Bible. And the United States is the largest Protestant nation in the history of the world. I had a professor at Howard University, for example, who told me that, she was referring to Jamaica, that, oh yeah, in Jamaica, people are religious, but in America, she was intimating that people are not that religious, but she doesn't understand the history. And she's a white American, she's Irish, by the way, and she doesn't understand the history of the United States, the country in which she was born. She doesn't understand that history, right? Because if she understood the history, she wouldn't have said that. Because the fact of the matter, the whole purpose of the United States being founded was to obtain religious liberty, right? That was the essence on which it was founded. Of course, afterwards, they started talking about the economic liberty, and they thought they could have, outdone their European counterparts through, engaging and participating in the whole institution of slavery. Right? But the primary thing that was on their mind, the primary reason for which they journeyed that long route from Europe to the Americas, to North America, was to obtain religious liberty. And many Americans have forgotten that history. And they're throwing out the baby with the bathwater. And what is going to happen if they read the history of France, particularly during the French Revolution, is that we have a French Revolution style cultural revolution that is going to result in the death of the United States and its culture. We cannot think that we as human beings are such great innovators that we're going to reinvent cultural norms that have worked and have functioned for millennia, for millennia, right? These cultural norms and values have been around and have served us well. Of course, they can be improved upon because we're not perfect individuals. But when we throw the baby out with the bathwater, what are we going to replace those norms and those values with? With the smoking of marijuana, as Ziggy Marley is intimating, and as Bob did. Because as Bob, even though Bob was entertaining the world, Bob was a troubled man. And he used marijuana to sort of ease his pain, to release and to relieve him of the agony, the mental agony, and perhaps the spiritual agony that he was enduring. Right? And of course, we all know about his sexual escapades also. Right? Very troubled person. A great man. But we must understand that we're not here to glorify and to valorize bad behavior or behaviors that are not wholesome. All right? Sorry about that. Now, let's look at the whole aspect. I understand that the movie that is coming up on for Bob, right, is released or produced by the Paramount Pictures company, right? That is the what you call it now. That is the production company. So we have who owns Paramount Pictures. That is what the question is being asked here. And this was written on February 1, 2000. No, it was not written on February 1, 2024. Today is February 1, 2024, but it was written on February 12th, 2023. And this is by the Cold Wire. Paramount is a broadcasting network that features premium entertainment. Although it was formerly a movie studio, it has since evolved with the times. Considering the history and success of Paramount, you may wonder who owns it. National Amusement is the owner of Paramount. It is a group with the biggest number of shares in Paramount Global. Since it owns the most shares, it has the majority to make decisions for the company. And we have National Amusements itself is a theater company and mass media company. It is a private company that has several brands of businesses under its ownership, and Paramount Global is one of the biggest. However, some of the other businesses or corporations that it owns are, and they gave us Showcase Cinemas, Cinema Deluxe, UCI, Showcase Cinema Deluxe, and we have Multiplex Cinemas and Paramount Global. So these is a big media company, right? Now, talking about the fact is, we talk about who owns it, and we have here a Bob Marley biopic, right? Because remember, Paramount is the production company for this Bob Marley biopic movie, right? So a Bob Marley biopic is in the works. And this was written from the 7th of June, 2018. So it's a long time. And I want you to understand that the global elites things don't just happen, right? For the most part. And I'm not suggesting that there are things that might not just happen, but for the most part, these guys are excellent planners. The global elites are excellent planners. And they plan sometimes years in advance. And when these things come on us, we are, oh, I don't know. And, and we get so frantic and act stupidly because we do not understand how they think. And if you're going to understand the agenda, you've got to understand how the global elites think. And you've got to also learn about the global elites. And some of you don't understand it. You hear the word elites, but you just think it's somebody just with a lot of money and they're just wanting to live comfortably. And that's it. Right? And that's it. Now, you've got to grow up. And many of you still have not yet grown up intellectually and spiritually, I should say. Because a lot of times, these global elites also have their spirituality. And one of the ironies of this whole doctrine that I hear at the university level, and from I was there, it was being quoted, in a robotic manner that, oh, I am spiritual, I'm not religious. Now, how can you be spiritual yet not religious? Because the whole aspect is that religion has to do with spirituality. Because we know that we have different components, different aspects of human nature. We have the physical, we have the mental, we have the spiritual realm, right? And you are going to tell me that you're the spiritual, but you're not religious? Where did you get that from? And people repeat this every day as if they are intellectuals and they are on a higher plane. How can you be spiritual yet not religious? And this is the conflict that many people are right now grappling with. They want to throw out religion out of the question, yet they want to maintain their spirituality. And I'm going to ask you that question. What spirituality are you maintaining? And what spirituality are you embracing? You've got to really think about that question because there's no escape of it. Humans like to think that they can escape the spiritual realm of our existence, but you cannot escape it because that is how you were made. It's like a woman saying that she does not see her period. You're going to laugh because that's a part of being a woman, is to see your monthly period. Is that so, women? Yes, I'm sure it is so, because that is a biological function of being a woman. Being a human being, we understand that we have a spiritual component that we cannot deny. And one of the reasons why many people are denying it, and one of the consequences of its denial, is that we are vacuous. We find ourselves empty. And that is why we are yearning for people like Bob Marley and for Rihanna and for all these celebrities that we yearn for and we want them to become national heroes of our lives. Now, let's look at this. A Bob Marley biopic is in the works. Now, a new Bob Marley biopic is reportedly in the works. And this was written, as we said, from 2018. The reggae legend, who died in May 1981 at the age of 36, will be the focus of the new film, which is being developed by the late icon's son, Ziggy Marley, in collaboration with Paramount Pictures. So already we know that Paramount Pictures is the production corporation that is responsible for the production of the film, right? As Deadline reports, Ziggy will be the driving force behind the picture, which is still in the very early stages of development. There are few details about the project at this time, with no directors, writers, or producers currently attached to the biopic. This is what they say now. The upcoming film will be the latest Bob Marley biopic to be made, with the most recent Marley picture, the 2012 film Marley, featuring archived interviews and footage of the artist. Directed by Kevin MacDonald, the film was released to critical acclaim. Now, listen to what is here is being mentioned. Ziggy Marley recently released his latest album, Rebellion Rises. Right? Rebellion. Now, what is this rebellion that Ziggy is talking about? Last month, he produced the video Bob Marley and the Wailers, Easy Skanking in Boston 78, while he served as an executive producer on the documentaries Bob Marley Legend Remixed and the aforementioned Marley. Now, I just wanted to put to quote Ziggy at the last paragraph here, but let's continue because it's a very brief article. Back in 2016, Marley's estate revealed plans to launch a new range of cannabis, right, products to mark what would have been the artist's 71st birthday. So from that time, Ziggy Marley's estate, the Marley's estate, revealed plans to launch a new range of cannabis products to mark what would have been the artist's 71st birthday. So Bob Marley is obviously being used as the face of the cannabis, right? Let me make sure the cannabis products or industry. It's an industry because that's what they're about to do, right? And they are abusing, they are commodifying, as Ian Boyne suggested in his article, the image of Bob Marley. Now, listen to what I think Ziggy is saying here. Son, that is Stephen, not Ziggy, but this is what Stephen is saying. And Stephen Marley is one of Bob's son. If my father was here physically, right? Perhaps he's here spiritually, he would be up front advocating for this plant. So we are very proud to put our Marley natural brand out there, the artist's son, Stephen, said in the statement. Right? So this is the image that they would like to project to the world. When reggae music hits you, you feel no pain, right? Because let me say something to you, that we are going to have some serious pain inflicted, economic pain, social pain inflicted upon our population, medical pain, right? And the global elites are aware of that, and they have to prepare you and I for dealing with the pain that we are about to bear. And it would be wonderful if we can have some cannabis to be able to hit me with the reggae music, to hit me with the reggae music, right? So that I will not be able to challenge intellectually what these guys are doing. Now, we talk about the fact that Ziggy Marley, have I mentioned that already? Is married to a Jewish lady, an Iranian Jewish wife by the name of Orly, right? I think we have already solidified that fact. Now, notice here that Ziggy Marley also said that he's jealous of the Jewish faith, the Jewish culture. Not the Jewish faith alone, but the Jewish culture. He's jealous of that culture. And he thinks that the Jewish religion is so much, and culture, by extension, is closely aligned with the tenets of Rastafarianism, right? That the Rastafari culture has a very strong connection to Haile Selassie, descendant of King Solomon. Where I wanted to find out was when he mentioned about the fact that the religion, that's the Jewish religion, Judaism, is strongly linked to. We did read it before, right? So you can, I'll attach the article and you can find that statement, which we have read before. Now, there, I found this article in the Los Angeles Times, and this was written from, um, let's look, December 19th, 2008, right? Now, this is from the Los Angeles Times, rather. And this article, when we delve into it, you'll realize how much our society has changed in terms of the freedom to express ourselves, right? And not to be considered as an anti-Semite. We're going to see that 2008 was a totally different year from what we're seeing right now in 2020, what we saw in 2023 and what we have begun to see unfolding in 2024, that the year that we are now presently in. Now, the writer here is by, this article is by Joel Steen, and obviously he is a Jew, right? Just by his last name. Now, listen to what he's saying, and let us listen carefully to this article and to take stock and to think and to reason, because we are human beings and we are not a part of the animal kingdom. I have never been so upset by a poll in my life. Only 22% of Americans now believe the movie and television industries are pretty much run by Jews, down from nearly 50% in 1964. So many Americans do not believe that that is true. But in 1964, you had a larger number of Americans who believed that the entertainment and movie or film industries were in fact, or television industries, were in fact run and operated by the Jews. The Anti-Defamation League, which released the poll results last month, sees in these numbers a victory against stereotyping. So that's one of the things. People like to live in illusion and like to create myths and suggest that, yeah, this is about diversity and it reduces stereotyping in our societies. Yes, we want to reduce and to diminish on any form of stereotypes or stereotyping within our societies. But what we don't want to do is to create myths around the reduction in such stereotyping, right? Actually, it just shows how dumb America has got. Jews totally run Hollywood. Jews totally run Hollywood. And Ziggy Marley and his wife, the wife who is Jewish, are a part of that world, right? And I think that is why Ziggy Marley had to make that statement. He was compelled to make that statement, that Rastafarianism and Judaism are closely aligned. And I'm not suggesting here that there might not be some aspects that might be closely aligned, but they're not aligned. We know that they're two distinct religions. They might have some similarities in terms of some of the beliefs, particularly in the Old Testament, but I do not think by any stretch of the imagination. For example, we know that the gods are different. Rastafarians believe that Haile Selassie, an Ethiopian man, was their god or is still their god, even though he has told them when he went to Jamaica in 1967, thereabout, that he is not a god. Now, how deeply Jewish is Hollywood? That's the question being asked. When the Stooges Chiefs took out a full-page ad in the Los Angeles Times a few weeks ago to demand that the Screen Actors Guild settle its contract, the open letter was signed by, and they have all of these people that signed that letter, which all of them appears to be Jewish. All of them, look at it. I don't have to read all of these names here and these companies, right? And the top executives, right? You can read that for yourselves. If either of the Weinstein brothers had signed, this group would have not only the power to shut down all film production, but to form a minyan with enough Fiji water on hand to fill a mikveh, right? The person they were yelling at in the ad was SAG or SAG President Alan Rosenberg. Take a guess. The scathing rebuttal to the ad was written by entertainment super agent Ari Emanuel, Jew with Israeli parents, on the Huffington Post, which is owned by Adriana Huffington, not Jewish, and has never worked in Hollywood. The Jews are so dominant. I had to scour the trades to come up with 6 Gentiles in high positions at entertainment companies. When I called them to talk about their incredible advancement, 5 of them refused to talk to me, apparently out of fear of insulting Jews. The 6th, AMC President Charlie Collier, turned out to be Jewish. As a proud Jew, so this guy is a Jew, the writer of this article is in fact a Jew. So let's not talk about anti-Semite, all right, because he is a Jew. I want America to know about our accomplishment. Yes, we control Hollywood. He's making the statement again. He's emphasizing that the Jews in the United States control Hollywood, right? Without us, you'd be flipping between the 700 Club and Davy and Goliath on TV all day. So I have taken it upon myself to reconvince America that Jews run Hollywood by launching a public relations campaign because that's what we do best. I'm weighing several slogans, including Hollywood, more Jews than ever. Hollywood, from the people who brought you the Bible. And Hollywood, if you enjoy TV and movies, then you probably like Jews after all. One of the things that I find amazing is when we understand these truths, we go to the films and we go to the movies and we purchase these movies and we build this Jewish, what you call empire. We build these Jewish empire and then we complain when we see wars waging in the world, not knowing that the monies that we are investing into these films, when we watch them, when we buy them, when we go to the movie theaters to see them, that we're enriching these people. And we are here now at this juncture for history where everything people say, if you critique the Jews, you are anti-Semite. So how can you be saying that you are in disagreement with what is happening, perhaps in Gaza, and yet go to the movies to encourage and also to support these people financially? Because their empire is growing when you support them in that way, right? But because you want to be entertained, you don't care. And these are the people who are promoting the Bob Marley's biopic movie, One Love. And they have their agenda. We saw where that Bob is being used as the image of the cannabis industry, of which Jamaica is not a part. No matter how much its marijuana is potent and natural, right? Jamaica will not be one of the countries from which it will be imported. And if it is, it will be controlled by a foreign industry or firm. And the profits will not remain in Jamaica, right? Because again, we are being used and we love to be used and abused. Now, let us look at, so I think you've gotten the message. I think you've gotten the message. I don't think that I need to uh, continue further in this. article, right? But I just brought these articles to let you know that this biopic movie that is coming up on Bob Marley is not about celebrating the life of Bob Marley, right? It's about advancing economic power, acquiring, obtaining economic wealth at Bob's expense, commodifying the man and his vision for racial equality and for economic equality around the world. Now, is it that you want the cannabis industry, cannabis, right? Why am I saying cannabis? Cannabis is cannabis industry to be elevated? Is it that you want your sons and your daughters and your grandchildren to be users of this plant? Right? Because that is the purpose. And I see Ziggy Marley and his wife, Orly. They have they've written several children books, as I am learning, or I have learned. And I was listening to one of a YouTube video in which he and his wife, that's Ziggy Marley and Orly Marley, were reading from that book. And I can't remember the title, but it gives me the creeps when I read, when I saw the title of the book that from which he was reading, he and his wife were reading. Gave me the creeps, right? It's almost like it's something esoteric that he's writing about. And the plot is set in Jamaica in the Blue Mountains, by the way, right? It gives me the creeps. And I have not yet listened to all of what they were reading in the book, in that book, right? But I think that there is an agenda, right? And it is to reorient the global population into accepting marijuana as something that is good for the human constitution, right? And I do not think, as much as Bob Marley probably thought it was good and it perhaps endowed him with wisdom from on high, I don't know if he would want to see the global elites capitalizing on marijuana and using it to abuse the minds of people, right? Because we have much knowledge now. We have learned much even after Bob Marley's passing in 1981, in the scientific world, that is. And we know the effects of marijuana. Not now marijuana used medicinally. I'm talking about marijuana being smoked and being abused. We know the effects on the mind and even on your physical body, right? Why are we so, why do we like to be played, right? Why do we like to be played by these global elites? So I want you this morning to think, if you think at this juncture, having revealed some of the things that I've revealed this morning from these articles, if you think at this moment you still would like Bob Marley to become a national hero under these circumstances, right? Why is it that the global elites are vouching for Bob Marley and they're hoisting him up on this stage of global fame? I mean, he's already there, right? But at this point in time, this juncture of the history, particularly after what happened after the pandemic. Why is he? And it was last year, as we said, that we saw where the cannabis industry is beginning to gain traction around the world. And they're almost telling us that, yeah, you have to legalize it in all countries. There are countries in which, marijuana is illegal, but they want to legalize it. But it's not to legalize it so that people can be free to use it if they so desire, which, yeah, that's what they should do, because I believe people should be free, even to take drugs, or whether legal or illegal, if they think it's good for their bodies, right? But what I do not partake of is when we do not inform people about the serious adverse events or effects that these drugs have on their bodies. And when we tell people that it is okay to do it, just smoke a joint and let's get together and feel all right. Let's get together without thinking and laugh like hyenas, right? Because that is what the agenda is all about. They, the global elites, do not want us to think. And it doesn't matter if you are white, black, Asian, brown, however you describe yourself, right? You are going to be exploited if you allow yourselves to be exploited by that agenda. And you need to also begin to tell your children, to educate them about the effects of cannabis, right? Before they begin, because this is going to be an aggressive campaign, an aggressive campaign. And you're going to hear even the scientists are going to be on this agenda. They're going to be in on this agenda and coming up with new usages and new benefits of marijuana, right? And many of you will believe it because it's coming from Harvard, it's coming from Oxford University, right? It's coming from Yale and Princeton and the University of Cambridge, right? Because it comes from on high. You believe it because it's thus saith the Lord of hosts. You don't believe in God, but you believe in what man says, right? You believe, and you believe blindly in man's assertions, even though mankind is but mere dust and doesn't have the wisdom to disseminate what is right, what is true, what is noble. We don't have that sort of capacity. And you look around the world and you see that we are decaying as a human race. We are decaying. We are decaying as a human race. And much of that decay is due to our disobedience and our wild rebellion, as Ziggy Marley suggests in one of his albums that he has created. Wild rebellion. We love to rebel, and we are rebelling against our Creator, right? Because we think that we are superior. We think that we know what is right for our society. We think we know what is right for us. But when you look at us, and when you look at our societies, you realize that we haven't got a clue. The problems that are afflicting our global societies, human beings haven't got a clue of how to solve these problems. So Since we don't have any clue, the global elites are going to resort to indoctrination and to hypnotize you by the use of cannabis so that you will be unable to think, and they will be able to control you without you're not even being aware. That is the agenda. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you have learned something from our discussion this morning, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. All the best to you.